Welcome back everyone! Now we are going through the basics of cloth simulation and it's time for some troubleshooting. The cloth simulation in Poser does have some limitations and there are a few issues that can pop up. In our troubleshooting episodes, we will look at some things that can be easily fixed. We'll also look at some other issues that are more complicated and might involve more of a compromise or a trade-off. In this episode, I will concentrate on posing issues. This is because what happens with your figure on the animation timeline is the foundation of your cloth simulation. We will use the long top that was included with episode 2. Download links are included in the description. We will be using Victoria 4, but meshes for Pauline have also been included, so if you like you can follow along using those instead. One of the most common issues is problems with hands moving through the body and dragging the fabric of your garment. Most poses with hands close to the body will need some adjustment to make room for the cloth. I will show you how I usually make a hand correction. We can start with loading our figure and the final pose we want to work with. Let's find a pose where the hand is on the hip. Then let's load our long top from episode 2. Let's do a test simulation. If you would like a more detailed walkthrough of the steps involved in setting up the animation, make sure to watch episode 2 of this series. Now we have our test simulation. Let's zoom in on the hand area and see how we did. Not too bad, but the fabric has been pushed back a lot by the hand, and we might not want that. Let's move back a few frames and make a correction to the hand. I am moving the thumb out of the way by bending it back. This will automatically create a keyframe for the thumb on this frame. This would probably look weird if you're going for an animation, but it works great for stills. Let's try simulating this again. Now we have a more natural look, which will probably look better when you're rendering this from the front. If the hand was moving through the body to reach its final position, you would do the same thing. Find the worst spot where the hand is inside the body and move it out. You could use several keyframes to create natural looking movement that would also work well with animation. Now let's look at issues with hip rotation. I think this one can very often be overlooked. Let's reload our figure and add another pose to the last frame. Let's scroll through the animation. Notice anything strange? If we take a look at Victoria's hip, we can see that it rotates during the animation. This is because the pose was created with a rotated hip, and due to the pivoting of the hip, it tends to wobble during the transition. This will cause your cloth to move around more than is necessary during the simulation. In this case, we can correct this by finding the worst part of the transition. Let's straighten Victoria up a bit. This creates an animation keyframe at this position. You can create several animation keyframes to gain even more control over how your figure transitions to its final pose. In some cases, if you see extreme hip rotation values, you can also try adjusting hip rotations by adding or subtracting 360 degrees from the value. I would say that you will have to pay more attention to movement when creating animations than when you're just making static renders. That's it for this time. Make sure to look out for the next part in this series. We will get into how to work with sitting poses and use a chair for static renders. Happy rendering and see you all next time!